We want people committed to taking tough stands, building coalitions across party lines, being decisive, and trying to be a problem solver. In America, politics is about winning. So you run to win, but also you win to govern. And what we've had in President Romney, and I'm going to refer to him that way, look at his life. Many of you don't know that he inherited quite a bit of money from his father and he gave it all to charity. He decided to go out and he was wildly successful in his own right. Somehow, for some people on the other side of the aisle, that's a bad thing. As our chairman said before, when he was growing up, his dad used to drive by a neighborhood and say, "See that house over there? That's bigger than our house. But you go to school and you work hard and you do everything you possibly can, and one of these days, you're going to live in a house like that." This is not a country that envies success. This is a country that promotes and provides opportunity so you can be successful. That's what we do. And you got to think of what the president has chosen not to deal with his first 4 years. He had a deficit commission, a bipartisan commission, and he kind of dissed them at a State of the Union address and he never got to it again. He's been talking about energy independence, but he never really sent a measure to the House or the Senate to really have an all-in proposal. By the way, yesterday he came up with, "I got a grand plan for deficit reduction." Where you been, Mr. President? You had 4 years for the grand plan. In the last couple of debates, he said, "Well, I got a plan on energy, I got a plan on immigration, I got a plan on this." Mr. President, the first 4 years were not on-the-job training. It's not OJT. You were the president. You were supposed to lead. You didn't lead. Away you go. So we know we want a president who's a decisive man, who's a principled man, who's prepared to take on the problems of this country. And by the way, you and I aren't going to have to agree with him all the time. We're not going to have to agree with him. That's not important. We just want him to try. And I think this is a man who delivered a 5-point plan. And if you listen carefully to the debates, did you hear President Obama say anything differently? What will he do differently the next 4 that he hasn't done the last 4? I'm still waiting. And if you think the next 4 is going to be as good as the last 4, it's bad news. Because we know what's happened with the last 4. Bigger government, more taxes, more unemployment, income going down, and no opportunities for people. 23 million people unemployed. So if his agenda is 4 more years, he said 4, we've gone backwards. Oh, and by the way, if you take a look at our economy growing in the past 3 years, in spite of being $5 trillion more in debt, in spite of that god-awful stimulus $1 trillion bailout that did nothing, America's economy for the past 3 years has continued to descend in economic growth. We don't need 4 more years, Mr. President. Time for you to retire. Nice pension, Secret Service protection, move on. Governor Romney, President Romney, move on in the White House. So we need a decisive problem-solving president. We need a president with a vision. Governor Romney has that. We also need a president who's accountable. Accountability. You know, when you were kind enough to elect me back in 1982, hi kids, you don't remember that. That's an ancient history for you kids. But I remember, because unemployment was, in this district, there were some areas of 17% unemployment. Inflation was 14 or 15%. And I remember very, very well. These were tough economic times. I saw it in the district. I got to tell you, I don't remember one time when President Reagan, even though he inherited those problems, ever said, "Woe is me, feel bad for me, look at the mess I inherited for Carter."
Right, right.
We never heard that. He acts like he's victim in chief. He acts like a victim. I don't want my president to be a victim. You accept the reality. You knew what it was. You ran for it. And by the way, when he couldn't get done blaming President Bush, then he's blaming the Republicans in Congress. And Mike will tell you, he had veto-proof majorities for the first 2 years, and he still didn't do anything. Yep. Quit whining. And recently, folks, this is something that, if it doesn't stir the heart and the emotion of your Democrat friends and your independent friends, I want them to rethink what's been playing out in Benghazi.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't have to agree with my president, never agreed with anybody all the time, but I want my president to take care of my people overseas,
Yep.
and I want him to tell me the truth.
Yes.
And I want to know it when I need to know it, and not 2 or 3 weeks later when it's convenient, once you've kind of spun it up politically. Folks, I have to tell you this. This is a president, and Mike will tell you, I've even talked to the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, the Republican chairman. They knew within a couple of hours that it was an organized attack. The White House knew, there are emails that the White House knew, the FBI knew, the State Department knew, and for 2 weeks we were told it is a spontaneous demonstration. It just got out of control. I'll tell you what, folks, they don't show up with RPGs, AK-47s, and everything else. It was a planned attack. They knew it, and they didn't tell us the truth. And at the end of the day, if you can't get the truth from your president, how can you expect him to lead? We want credibility and accountability, and he has done neither over the past 4 years. It's time for him to go. And then finally, we need presidents who are willing to try to unite us. Remember, I think President Obama, that very inspirational candidate in 2008, we know he was. Great speaker. Although we're not electing the president forensically, we're supposed to be electing the president of the United States. Remember, it was that hope and change, and we're not a red country, and we're not a blue country, or a red, white, and blue country. But we've never had a more divisive presidency in recent political history.
Right.
And I say this to my Republican friends and Democrat friends, regardless of your political persuasion, don't we need somebody that is at least prepared to try to reach across the aisle? These are big problems, folks. Some of them, most of them have started because Washington hasn't done its job. It's become very partisan. Mike and I were just talking about coming up. I said, I really respect your congressman. I think he's a tremendous leader. He's done a marvelous job the first couple of years he's been down there. I just wish someone of his temperament, his personality, his mindset, his fervor could have worked in Washington in the environment that I did. It's a different place. And we need a president, a leader who will unite us, not divide us, who has the vision, who's prepared to be accountable, and he'll tell the truth. And then finally, from my perspective, folks, most Americans, because the economy's tough, we don't realize that the world, whether we like it or not, the world expects us to lead.
Yes.
The world,
Right.
you know, it's tough because we've parted a lot of blood and a lot of treasure, and I don't care how you think about Iraq and Afghanistan, there's issues even beyond that, and that is that America is expected to lead. I was with Shimon Peres, the Nobel Prize winner, several weeks ago, and we were talking to a group of business, and he was talking about America. You know, he said, America is great because they give, they don't take. And many times we're the world's first responder during emergency. We responded to challenges of liberty and freedom around the world. We have to be engaged. And I must tell you, we are not respected around the world. Vice President Biden says the alliances are strong and they're looking to us. I must tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I still have some friends overseas. They don't look for America to lead from behind. We used to play that game when I was a kid. It was called Follow the Leader. They want us to be up front. And so I want a president who understands that our security and our prosperity requires us to be more engaged, not less engaged. Then we're not going to cede our future, Pennsylvania's future, America's future, the kids' future, to another group of countries or to the United Nations. We need a president who understands that we have to lead the rest of the world. That third debate, I thought it was summed up beautifully. It's all about peace, truth, strength. You can go back to Ronald Reagan. It's about being smart. It's about supporting your friends and letting your enemies know that we do draw a line in the sand. That doesn't necessarily mean we're militaristic or we're warmongering, but we will stand with our friends. We will not run away from Israel. We will not run to the UN when we refuse to lead, and the list goes on and on and on. So I'm going to conclude with a wonderful story about, and you can't make this stuff up. I'm in the cab in New York City in 1984. And I said to the cab driver in the Reagan-Bush re-elect, I said, sir, I said, what are you going to do in the election? Well, I'll probably vote for that Reagan guy, he said. I said, really? He said, well, I don't agree with him very much, but I'm still going to vote for him. I said, that's a very interesting line from A to B. Why is that? He said, well, I always know where he stands. Now that sounds to me like principled leadership. I don't have any doubt in my mind. I mean, I think the fact that Paul Ryan was selected as his running mate should have sent a signal to everybody. Now, Paul Ryan's out there with a very specific plan dealing with the deficit and entitlement reform and all the squawk boxes and MSNBCs, and they're beating on him. We're the only party that has a plan. And so it sent a signal to me, and this is a man of principled leadership, and that was telegraphing to you, to the Republicans and Democrats and Independents, we'll take on the tough issues, we'll be held accountable, and we're not going to wait for a second term to do it. Principled leadership. And then I said, okay, sir, what's the second reason? You know what he said to me? He said, he makes me feel good about being an American. How about that? Huh? We have a president who's prepared to take on the tough issues, whether he wins them all or not. You have a president with a vision who tries to execute the game plan. You have a president and vice president prepared to be accountable. You have a president and vice president that understand and appreciate our role in the world. You have a vice president that doesn't blame the woes that he's inherited on anybody else, just tries to fix them. We're going to feel real good, not only about being from northwestern Pennsylvania, about being from Pennsylvania. We're going to feel real good about being Americans again. It's not the malaise of the spirit of Carter and this guy. It's about America being a better, bigger, stronger place. Friends of our allies, committed to our value system, promoting it around the world. Romney Ryan! Romney Ryan!